Welcome to Engineering Influence, a podcast by American Councils of Engineering Companies. We're here today to discuss a charitable foundation created by ACEC Minnesota, the Engineering Education Foundation of America. I'm joined here today by John Curry, Executive Director of ACEC Minnesota, and Dan Larson, past treasurer of ACEC and CEO of AET, and a major contributor to the foundation. Thanks for joining us. John, I'll start with you. What was the impetus for creating the Engineering Education Foundation for America, or EEFA?
Well, thanks for having us, Patrick. And one of the reasons that ACEC Minnesota took on the initiative of creating this foundation was there's actually two main reasons. Number one is one of the things that I was hearing from all our member firms is workforce. In Minnesota, we probably have well over 1,000 open positions amongst our member firms across multiple sectors, and we were really looking for a way to tackle workforce initiatives. So definitely ACEC Minnesota wanted to tackle the workforce issue. Secondary, we were being asked to partner with lots of organizations out there to advance workforce issues, advance STEM, partner with education issues. But there didn't seem to be an organization out there that was really leading on behalf of the consulting engineers. So one of the things that I went to my board with early on when I started this position was the idea of creating a 501c3 nonprofit, really with the goal of advancing workforce development and education. And the foundation that we created, the Engineering Education Foundation of America, EFA for short, really has a mission of making charitable investments in those two areas, workforce and education. And I think it's something that our members in Minnesota and throughout the upper Midwest that we're working with are really proud of the fact that the consulting engineers have a foundation where they can lead through and partner with other groups.
Great, thank you. What is the vision for EFA?
I think one of the visions that we have for EFA is that we really want to help encourage not only young folks but folks entering the workforce now to really consider a career in engineering and specifically drive them towards consulting engineering. So with the vision that we have, we've got four main initiatives that we're focused on. Number one is STEM education. It's that K-12 pipeline. Number two is post-secondary. That can be either civil engineering programs or 2-year degrees or even graduate level folks to focus on. Our third initiative is really focused on retention and mentorship in the industry. So it's one thing to say, hey, we've got to bring in 1,000 new employees, or we need to, when we talk about IIJA, 88,000 new workers in the industry, but how do we retain them and how do we keep that talent in the pipeline for our members at ACEC Minnesota and for the consulting engineering industry at large? And then our fourth initiative is really focused on data gathering, information collecting. What are those data points that are really driving workforce development and education decisions across that spectrum, education-wise? And that's where we're really leveraging local data. We're leveraging resources like the ACEC Minnesota Salary Survey, but we're also leaning on our partnership with the ACEC Research Institute to help promote and encourage them to look at more workforce type reports and data gathering.
No, I think that's great. I think a lot of what we're hearing at the workforce committee level is just that long-term commitment into the K-12 population and trying to influence the next generation. Are there any key highlights or accomplishments to date that you want to talk about regarding EFA?
Yeah, I think number one accomplishment is getting a 501c3 organization starting it from scratch and getting it going. I know from talking to some of my other colleagues around the country at other MOs, deciding whether they want to do workforce through existing committees or potentially create a nonprofit organization. It is a big lift and it takes a lot of people and a lot of resources to get that off the ground. So our organization is very proud of the fact that we were able to start a nonprofit from scratch. And I think that, the other big success is that we've successfully transitioned our workforce and our scholarship programs over to our foundation. We've been able to generate more than 100 volunteers to volunteer for different initiatives that I've laid out. We've also delivered scholarships and promoted our program in 5 states already throughout the upper Midwest. We recently established a partnership with ACEC North Dakota, and we're hoping that through some of these grassroots efforts, we really see IFA as a grassroots effort that is owned by its volunteers, that we're going to be able to advance the profession and grow the workforce through those different workforce initiatives that I talked about.
No, that's great. I think another key priority of the Workforce Committee is trying to identify best practices that could be leveraged nationwide. And I think what you all are doing up there in the Midwest is really encouraging. And so love to hear what we can do in the future.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Patrick. I mean, one more thing is I think there's an opportunity for us to collaborate and share information. And that's what we're trying to do through IFA is we're trying to develop those shared resources partnerships. So if we develop one good resource in Minnesota or another one of our partners in another partnering state develops that resource, we want to share it with everybody because, we know that donors like Dan's company, they don't only operate businesses in one state, they operate them across the country. And we've got 7 key donors right now for the foundation, and their footprint is coast to coast, top to bottom, in the continental U.S. So just 7 companies has a coast to coast reach, and I think if we can get more organizations, more firms involved in an organization like IFA, we can really do a lot and create that grassroots movement.
That's great. Outside of this sharing mechanism, are there things in the future that we should be looking out for as we look over the next 12 to 15 months?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've been asked by a lot of executives and CEOs at member firms is we get the mission when it comes to STEM education. We get the need to inspire the next generation of engineers, whether it's kindergarten like my 5-year-old, or it's somebody who's sending their kid off to high school, then college. It's about where can we have that immediate impact is a question that I'm getting. And one of our areas of focus in the coming months is going to be focusing on internships. So we've had a very successful scholarship program. Due to some of our university and post-secondary outreach, we saw a 500% increase in applicants last cycle. We're looking to pair that with an internship portal because it's kind of the old adage of, hey, you can give someone a fish, that's giving them a scholarship, or you can teach them to fish, that's giving them a job. Through this foundation, we're looking to do both at the same time.
That's great, John. Hearing all this great stuff, Dan, what really inspired AET and yourself to get involved with IFA?
When John was kind of putting the idea of IFA together, we sat down. I still remember we had a breakfast and we were talking about it, and I immediately told him, I said, yeah, I want to be involved, because what he was hitting on something that the industry hasn't been able to really figure out, hasn't been able to solve. My firm does a lot of outreach in high schools and elementary schools. We participate in several things like Math Counts and Future City and all these things. But it just seemed like we were doing this small part, and I was wondering, how can we really make a difference in the workforce and building that workforce of the future? And when he talked to me about it and the vision that he had for it, I thought, that's exactly what I was looking for. Some kind of a organization that can collaborate with all those other organizations out there working for STEM education. The way I look at it is, STEM is a very large piece of the education pie, right? But if you go to engineering, it's a little bit smaller. And then our industry, our consulting and engineering industry, is even smaller than that. So we need to get as many kids into that big funnel to get them into that, interested and excited about STEM education. then ultimately through the engineering IFA, ultimately through their efforts and our efforts, helping and collaborating with them, get them and keep them into that curriculum through high school, into college, and then into the working world. So it really was kind of filling a void that I hadn't quite been able to put my finger on. It's just like everybody's doing all these things. Let's try to focus that. And IFA really is that vehicle I see.
When you think of those long-term challenges and those intangible things that we're talking about, workforce development, it's something that you're not going to see a real impact for the first year, 3 years, 5 years. It's 10-year out landscape. How do you see IFA contributing to the success of the engineering industry over the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, you're right. It's a long-term play. I am late career with what I have been doing for 40 years, but I'm still as passionate as I ever was to try to get as many kids into the workforce as possible. And I think by IFA and their outreach, and hopefully it catches on, with other MOs, and we can bring more people into it, and then even that collaboration with some of the state organizations that are working on this, obviously the ACEC National Workforce Committee. I think to be able to focus that effort into a real cohesive, kind of thoughtful, intentional program to really get kids excited about engineering and seeing all the things that they can do in their lives and their careers, and just getting them excited. The more we can get that word out, the more we can sing the praises of what engineers do and make it exciting, and we call it sexy at times, be able to do that. We're going to get more kids into STEM, and the success is going to come when we start seeing that payoff. Yeah, it's going to be a while yet for down the road a bit, but when we start seeing more kids going, more schools offering STEM programs in the middle school and high school, engineering schools growing, graduates of engineering schools growing, that's when I know we're going to be seeing the benefit of that down the road. And like I said, IFA and ACEC Workforce Committee, these getting them together and working together is the key. I always liken it to, if you think of a golf team, everybody goes out and shoots their own score, and you add it up at the end of the day and see how you did. But nobody's collaborating, nobody's talking, right? I think we need to look at it more like, a football team, or I'm a hockey guy, a hockey team where you have to work together to deliver, your whatever your talent is, and working together will help us really see that. So I see that IFA being one of those really key ingredients to this next really hard, I think going to be hard, but fruitful step of getting more and more kids into STEM and engineering.
Well, thanks, Dan. John, any last closing remarks before we sign off here?
Well, I'd just like to end, Patrick, by saying, hey, ACEC Minnesota really appreciates the investments that ACEC National has taken in workforce, and we hope that, through our foundation and through more strong partnerships at the national level and at the MO level, and partnerships with other organizations outside of the ACEC family, that we can start to grow workforce and really, like Dan said, focus on the engineering component of that, and really have a positive impact on students across the education pipeline, and really tell them that, hey, there is an exciting career in engineering, and this is how you become a part of a really vibrant, forward-thinking industry.
That's great, and we definitely look forward to future collaboration, especially from the ACEC Workforce Committee from a national perspective. I know Rodney, Susan, and Orhan are very interested in this issue, so look forward to that collaboration. This has been an episode of Engineering Influence, a podcast by the American Council of Engineering Companies. We'll see you next time.